And then the key to a nice, smooth, streak-free glaze is mixing enough paint. Now you see I've added a lot of water in here. So that's why I want to make sure that I get mostly pigment out of my pans, because I'm already diluting it to make enough. I'm going to mix a nice, rich, dark, so that I have a lovely contrast between the background and my pear. I'm using cool red and warm blue. And I can go a little darker than that. Notice I'm not adding more water, I'm adding more pigment. I'll test this out. That looks good to me. I'm ready to go. So I'm not going to be mixing any more paint. I'm only going to work with this puddle that I have. I'll be using a number 8 and possibly a number 4 brush to lay in the wash. Okay, I'm only going to work out of this puddle. And I'm moving my painting around so that I can start at one end and move around. I have my board at a bit of a slant. Not a lot of a slant, but that way the water, the pigment is always running down and it doesn't move back up to the area I've already painted. So you want to really add a big puddle to start with, and then you're really just pulling that puddle down, and you're not going to want to go back up to the areas you've already painted. You simply are guiding this puddle down. When you need to turn a corner, you turn the paper and keep adding to your puddle. Can you see the dark part right along the edge? And see how nice and smooth it's looking above my puddle edge? As long as I keep the edge wet, I'm perfectly fine. It's when the edge starts to dry that you end up with a streak. So you can see why you don't want to have to stop and mix more paint. There are ways to vary the color that I will teach you in another class. One little step at a time. You get to be a master of this, or at least fairly proficient. Then you can move on to playing with adding color and also graduating it so that it goes from dark to light to dark again without any streaks. See how I'm keeping this all wet while I turn this corner? I'm still pulling down. And because it's wet, gravity works in my favor and it's going to go all the way down. See how it's moving? I hope you can see that in the video. You'll definitely see it when you're doing it on your own painting. And you're really the captain of your puddle. You want to steer your puddle in the direction you want it to go. Now, just because I'm coming to the edge does not mean that I don't keep adding to the puddle. You'll see what I do when I get to the very end of this, which I am fast approaching. And then I will use the property of a sponge, which is to soak up. I'm going to do what we call wicking up. All right, there's a puddle there. This is where my paper towel comes in handy. I dry off my brush and I carefully, without scrubbing the paper, I gently skim the top of my puddle. I don't rub color off, and I wick it up until I don't see a puddle anymore. And then I let it dry. Look at how beautiful that is. That is a seamless wash. This is a technique that I have used more than any other technique I know. I throw paint, I splatter it, I work very dry with dry brush. I do all kinds of techniques with watercolor. This is the one that I have found most useful in the 40+ years that I've been painting. You master this and you will have the world at your fingertips. We're going to let that dry completely and then move on to another area.